Hey guys, in this video I wanted to go over how I recreated this simple animation that looks really nice using frame motion in React. So to start, I wanted to give a nice overview of how this animation actually works in order to make it more clear and easier to follow. So for this animation to work, we actually clone the text here, what we do, and we have another what we do. I'm just using the same links as they do. As you can see, there is a div that houses both of these pieces of text. However, one is positioned absolutely. This will appear down here. Now when the user hovers over the link, this piece of text will go up and this one will come in and take its place. And that's how it works. And then whenever you hover out of it, it comes back right into place. Lastly, in order to make this look like it's flowing, like kind of smoothly and like spin to it, you actually need to animate each letter one by one individually and give it a little delay between each letter. Oh, and one last thing, I forgot to mention that once we have that animation going, we can do an overflow hidden on this div and it will hide the piece of text that was underneath, so it won't be in view. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so here I have a file called animated link, which basically we're going to create a wrapper that will take in whichever piece of text we want to animate and give it the nice animation. So here we have an export default function. Right now it's just div with animated link, but first what we want to create is the parser. So we'll create a function that will parse each word, and then for each word it will parse each letter. That way we can animate each letter in the word to get the nice effect that I was talking about. So let's call this animated word, and it's going to be a function that's going to take in the title. Will be an arrow function. So the span will be the word, and we want to map through the title, which is the string of letters, and we want to split this on each space, meaning every word, and then we'll map through each character and give an index. Here we have to check if the character is actually a space. Okay, so here we're going to split the title, which is the text, in an array by the spaces. Now we have to check if there is a space, and if there is a space we actually need to return a span tag of this symbol, which represents a space. Of course, we have to give this a key as well. Now, if it's not a space, then we will return each word in a span. Okay, so again, what we're doing here is just taking each word in the text, splitting it by a space, looping through each character in the array. And if it's a space, then we use this symbol, which represents a space. Else, we wrap the character, each letter, in a span. In order for this to work, we actually need to give these some class names. So this will be relative, inline block, and then white space, no wrap. That way the text won't wrap down. I actually put this into the wrong one. My apologies. And now for the word, we actually need to give this another white space, dash no wrap, and a relative. Okay, so now that we have these words parsed by each character, now we can come here to the actual component and then we pass in animated word. Here we can pass in the title, and this will be title. And we will take in title. And I forgot to close this like that. Now, like I said, we need a clone of the link. That way we can position this one absolutely and it will come into place. To do this, we will have to give this a class name of relative and an overflow hidden. Actually, I'm gonna keep it off just to show, and a cursor pointer, since this will be the link. Now let's come to our page. So here what I'm doing, I'm looping through the array of nav links, which have an object of each link, which has a title and an href. Here, and I was just passing in a regular link. and positioning this one absolutely to show the demonstration. So now what we're going to do, instead of using a link component, actually going to pass in the animated link component, and we're going to pass in the title as the link dot title, like this. And we don't need this flex. Okay, so as you can see, we have this piece of text taking up an extra space inside of the div. So to fix that, all we have to do is create a div here, pass in the second piece of text, give this a class name of absolute, and a top of 0. Now it appears that it's gone, but it's actually on top of this other word. But we will fix that with the animation. Okay, now for the animation is the fun part. Okay, let's start by animating the letters. So we will give this span a motion, and this comes from framer motion. Okay, and so we have to use client with framer motion. Okay, so for the variants, each animated piece of text will have a different animation property, because one will start at the bottom and will go up, and then the other one will start here and then go up. So we can start by creating our animation variants. So const letter animation, and then this will equal an object, and we will give it a rest animation of y0. So it will start at its original spot, and then when it's hovered over, we want to change this to y25. So this will be -25 because it will hover up instead of going down. Then I will just copy this for the second animation. So let's just call this 2. This will actually start 25, and it will come to a y of 0 when it's hovered. Now we have to specify a transition and a duration. This will be 0.3 and an ease function. And I have this function that I found that works best for this animation. Also, we'll have to give it a type, which is just an animation type. And this will make it, instead of bouncy, because usually with framer motion, all animations are like by default like springy and bouncy. So the type tween should make it like a little stiff. And let's give these same properties to the other animation. Now here for this span, we will give this a variant of animation, and we will pass this in as prop. So for this one, we'll just give an animation of letter animation. Then for the second one, we will give this animation of letter animation 2. Now, nothing's happening. So this is because we have to animate the parent element first in order to see any animation. So here we will actually create a variant for the parent. Let's call this title animation. When it's at rest, when it's not hovered, we will give this a transition of staggered children. I found that this number works really nice. Same for the hovered property. Here we're just going to change this to hover. So whenever it's hovered, these letters will stagger. Let's pass in the variants of title animation. And then we can give this an initial of rest and an animate of hover. Okay, so now if we refresh the page, we should see an animation. And as you can see, the first piece of text goes from inside of the box outside. And yeah, it's a nice little simple animation. But right now it's just happening on refresh and basically whenever the page reloads. In order to do this on hover, we will have to give the parent div a motion property. So framer motion has this while hover property, but after many hours of debugging, it turns out it doesn't work with this specific animation, and you actually have to do a little workaround. It just took me a while to actually figure this out, but what you want to use is on mouse enter and on mouse leave. These two will receive a callback function. We actually need to define some state here. let's just call this state is hovered and set is hovered, set hovered. Here we'll just give this false at the beginning, and we'll have to import this use state from React. So we will use state in order to determine if the div is being hovered over, since while hover doesn't work. This little on mouse enter will receive a callback function that will set is hovered to true, because if the mouse entered, then it's true. And here on mouse leave, we need to set hovered to false. Okay, simple as that. And now we have our hovered state working. Okay, so now what we want to do is actually pass in this state variable into our components in order to let them know when they should animate. So is hovered is going to be equal to is hovered. So now that we have this state here, we can receive it as a prop. Is hovered. What we can do is pass in is hovered and check if it is, then we want to hover. Else, if it's not hovered, if it's false, then we want to rest. Okay, so now whenever we hover over the div, it animates both of our text. So now we see they're duplicated. This is a simple is do, like I said, overflow and then hidden. Okay, so I removed the border and gave this a bigger text size, but it is important to note that whenever you change the size of text, you'll have to change the Y position. So since I gave it a bigger text size, I will increase this to 30. That way we give it more space between the letters. And as you can see, it works really nicely. And it looks just like this. And now you can adjust the duration, the speed of these animations, the ease functions in order to fit your needs. But I think this is pretty close to what this animation is like. So if you want more dramatic effect on the tilt, you can increase this staggering effect here. And this should give you like a more dramatic wobbly effect. But like personally, I don't like this. So I'll just revert this back to the 3. So feel free to play around with the code. I'll leave it down in the description. It's in my website. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and mess around, implement it into your website. I'll also leave a link down below to the website that I got inspired from. And feel free to leave a comment if you have any animation you want me to try out and make a video on, and I'll be sure to post it. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.